Welcome to this video. Thank you so much for tuning in, sharing in this now moment with myself and with one another. If you haven't seen these videos before, welcome. Welcome back if you have. My intention is unity and oneness and the highest levels of love light. I want to go into a little flow, see what the guides have to share about the energies that are coming in. I'm just going to set my intention to connect with some of these higher frequencies and bring through whatever is maybe helpful for the collective in this now moment. So, dropping into the heart space, allowing that frequency and energy to spill out into the body, up into the brain, down into the lower parts of the body, flood the chakra system, flood the entire body. This is important right now, you guys. It's important all the time to drop in, to feel what's going on in our bodies. This is a message that's coming up again and again and again, and will continue to come up. And maybe I am working on some videos about this, and hopefully I'll be sharing those soon. We have an intensely heightened period of activity. This intensely heightened period of activity, this is a play on words, I'm being called to say that to come back to this later. I'm seeing a period like a dot. Is enhancing our capabilities to interact with our environment in a much more methodical way, and yet a much more multidimensional way as well. And as we enhance our linear advancements, we advance in a much more a broader scope of linearization. And let us play with this for a moment. For we have mentioned many times a linearization, ABCD, is not exactly the path in which we are being called to follow moving forward in the near future. This is a play on words as well, for there is no time, and yet we are encased and encapsulated within a time frequency bandwidth that allows us to work within the interior from one perspective of time. And yet we are working well beyond that, well beyond our years, one might say. And so the frequencies that we are being invited to play in and with and through are enhancing our linear point of view, our ability to see in a broader perspective in this now moment, within this time, within this linearization. And in actuality, this is enhancing our ability to see more clearly and to be more I'm hearing interpretive. It allows us to interpret our environment in a much better and more linear way. Although this is not, of course, what you may see outside of your reality that is being played out in the other versions of reality or landscapes that we may be bridged with or connected to that hold a different point of view or a different perspective. For many of us are being able or allowing ourselves or enabling our ability to see all from this point of view, meaning appreciate, review, look back on, view, and understand multiple points of view, multiple realities, multiple bubbles or subsets of frequency that allow us to actually enhance our own experience. And let us go into this a bit deeper. So I'm being called to just stop for just a moment. I'm seeing a bubble of reality, and this is the subset that we're in. This bubble is where we interact. This is our linear version. We also can see the linear versions of other realities. This happened, then this happened, then this happened. Do this to do that. Do this to get there. However, because our bodies and our brain and our mindset, this is a plain words, frequency, set, rhythm, set, musical scale, is advancing, is evolving, is enhancing, it allows us to see it more clearly. So we become more streamlined, not all the time, but this is what's being offered to us if we're open to receive. This also simultaneously allows us to see the other realities playing out around us and not necessarily gravitate towards them. And I'm hearing be grabbed into them. This is a play on words, grab onto them. We can see them from our perspective and kind of see the slight variations in oscillations, in frequency dynamics. We feel it. So I already hear somebody going, what do you mean we can see it? It's subtle. Some of us can see it very broad. We see the drop off. We're like, okay, that is another version of reality that is not part of mine, but I'm able to see it. So I'm playing with this in multiple ways. So let's go big. That's the big one. We're like, okay, that's this other timeline playing out that I'm witnessing, yet I am not necessarily part of. Although if it is showing up in front of me, it's giving me the opportunity to choose to play with it or not to play with it. So what that does is we're actually able to then experience it, have an experience of witnessing it and noticing our feelings attached or unattached to it, which then allows us to have a little bit of that and a little bit of this, which actually can enhance our experience, because then in that moment, we are recognizing that the two realities, we're recognizing what we're witnessing, we're allowing ourselves to process those emotions without getting pulled into that bubble or subset, and then not being able to see this bubble or subset. Does that make sense? This is what they're trying to share, my guidance team, about multidimensionality and how it really works from one perspective. There's a lot of other variations, but this is an explanation to allow us to see or recognize partly the order to things, so that we become less disordered and called to the chaos. It's calling us. We can see it. Hello. We can hear it. We might pick up the phone, but it doesn't mean that we're only going to focus on that phone call. We're seeing all of this kind of play out around us. And this is where it allows us to balance the chaos a bit and dip our toes, to have a little bit of that experience, and for us to go, oh, okay, I see what's going on here. No, thank you. Have fun work. You can play in that bubble. I'm going to play in this bubble. And this is conscious. This is us making a conscious choice and decision, which then enhances our experience. It enhances the types of experiences we have, which makes us a broader human. From one perspective. From another perspective, it allows us to hold our stability, and what I'm hearing is calculate our experience a bit more, with more productivity, and with our ability to then organize based on what we see our potentials going on in other people's realities. So this is a big message. Number one, it allows us to see what we need to do in order to not play into that. We can feel where that's taking us, and we can make the corrections, correct our vessel before we end up getting pulled into that. Well, simultaneously, we might recognize that that is a huge probability that's playing out that it might be necessary for us to dabble in that realm for whatever reason. Maybe it's an agreement or a choice, or we work within that environment, but it almost gives us the ability to see the future. We begin to play with time differently. We can see that this is a potential, and we can prepare for it, but we can prepare for it in such a way that it's a balanced, and we're harmonizing our field, so that if this reality becomes a larger probability, we're aware of it, we're tapping into it, and we've already seen it coming. Now, this is a play on words as well, because I'm being called to share with everyone, just because it's a probability doesn't mean it's going to happen. And just because we see it playing out doesn't really mean that it's real. So that's a whole other can of worms. But so again, we're being called to center and come back into our own unification. And then this is helping us to learn how to be multidimensional. And so many people are asking, which timeline is it that's really playing out, and what does my future hold, and how can I be living in this reality while all of these atrocities are going on. And we seek to remind everyone that atrocities, this is a play on words, but I'm seeing negative things, have been going on for centuries. We think about all of the timelines that we have been a part of in our lifetime, what our parents and grandparents have gone through, but we are being called to change our perspective about these realities. Pause. And this is where geometry plays a key role. I'm going to do some toning. We are being called, changing frequencies a bit here, to call out our distortions, to recognize that there are distortions in our field, to feel them when they come up so that they may reveal to us, or so that they may be revealed to us, or that we may reveal to them. We may be revealed, plan words, that all is being revealed, to witness and to feel into the field that we are existentially connected to, that we are a part of. For when we allow these ideas or concepts about what negative or seemingly negative co-creations are or were, we begin to separate or extract ourselves from those potentials. We begin to be able to call them out and to reorganize so that we may fine tune our eyes. We may be fine tuning what we see and how we see it. For as we see these things from the projection of our heart, we begin to disorganize those projections. We begin to disorganize those predictions. We begin to clear those potentials from even happening within our field. Let us go a little deeper into this. For as we allow ourselves to organize our frequency, when we recognize the disorganization and the scattered frequencies that are being projected towards us, pulling us towards them in a magnetic sort of way, we begin to say no more. Plan words, KNOW, more. We know this, we recognize it, we see it. And we begin to ask and you shall receive, to know more about this particular energy that is pulling us towards a co-creative frequency that we may see in that moment we choose not to embed within. And as we do this, we lay the groundwork for what it is we choose to see and embed with. So that's that play on words, like making our beds, laying in it, right? We're laying the groundwork for what it is that we are then blanketed in, encapsulated within. But we're doing it, we're able to stop it, recognize it before we end up there and go, how did I get here? For we are all co-creating and blending in a merge of frequencies and bandwidths. And what it is that we choose to band with is called to organize around us. For we are the ones that are co-creating together with it. It is not some organism that is beyond our template or beyond our ability to template with. That's a play on words. I'm seeing a plate of food and eating. Like we're choosing to sit down and have that meal. We can look at our plate and say, this isn't for me. I'm going to just eat vegetables today. No, thank you. We are not necessarily forced to eat these things. We are not force feeding ourselves. We are not feeding into a reality without our, so when we're conscious of it, we don't feed into it. But when we're unconscious, we feed into it more than we realize, more than we see. And then it becomes something of a reality for us. And so we choose to scale back how much energy we give to a particular subject or probability. For we are the probability that is working itself into the weave of that embeddability. We are creating the scaffolding, one may say, in order to lay or create the way towards that particular pathology. And this is a play on words, pathology. So what it is that we speak about, what it is that we speak about our experience, what it is that we share with each other, all of this holds a gravity to it, a spin, a gravitational pull. And the more we can allow ourselves to feel into the spin of the weaving of the heart, of the ability to feel into the profound state of art. Man, words. State of art is the state of being. How great art, how great thou art. Our own creation of artistic ability, right? Our own ability to paint and weave a picture of our reality coming from our perspective, which again, channeled through the heart, changes everything. We begin then to grasp what is really happening. And we let go of the need to grasp at straws or the straws that have been given to us. And I'm being shown a hand saying, here's the straws you get to choose from. Choose a straw. And we see that thinking that those are the straws that we have the choice to choose from, when in actuality, we can say, no, thank you to all of those straws. And then we're not choosing the short end straw, whatever the whatever it's called, the draw, right? We are then creating our own straws rather than grasping at straws. It isn't about that. And what I'm seeing is it's almost as if we're being shown, here are your options. And because we're focusing on that, when we come back into the heart and we allow ourselves to stabilize our frequencies, we recognize that's not, oh, that's your game. I'm not going to play your game and pick up the sticks that you're offering me. And I'm hearing the carrot and the stick, right? Like, okay. This unbinds us. It allows us to unbind from the geometric patterning that is continuously being sent out. And this allows us to scale back from that scaffolding. And we allow ourselves to unfold in our own fluid dynamic, in our own fluidity that allows us to be more dynamic, that allows us to move with more compression, compassion, a deeper internal calibration that allows us to identify more about our own might. It allows us to utilize our own energy and frequency in such a way that we can then look at our options, see what it is that is available to us that may have been unavailable to us before. For we are able to see more. So I'm being shown a computer display, and it's like, you know, when you have a screen up and you have all these tabs open, but you're only looking at what's on the screen, and it's all these other tabs that are available, they're already there. But until we minimize that big tab, we can't see the other ones that are available to us. This is the quantum. This is the multidimensionality, and this is the availability and ability to scale into the harmonics that are available to us now. For we are conducting a frequency at such a high variance. This is all a planned word. So when I use these words, it has to do with geometry, music, it has to do with physics, which is inclusive of all of those things. It has to do with biology. So I use the words interchangeably to then create a scaffolding, in other words, with multidimensionality and with a fluidity in communication, so that all of those words can be utilized to feel into this harmonic scale of what they represent. And we are each doing this in our own way, and each of us holds a pattern that we enjoy utilizing, a pattern of play that brings us more joy. It brings us more reciprocation. In order to reciprocate, this is a play on words. I'm being called to pause for a moment and utilize this as an example. Okay, so on dictionary, if I just Google, it says reciprocate, and I'm being called to play with this. So what I was saying is it's allowing us to reciprocate more. And this is a play on words too. I got these lots of solar stuff going on right now. My head's going, it feels like my head is doing this a little bit. Respond to a gesture or action by making a corresponding one. Oh gosh, I could go totally down the wormhole with this. That's number one. Number two, to move backward and forward in a straight line. Ooh, now this takes me back to what I was saying earlier about linearity. And this is how my guides are trying to explain to me about time and how our relationship with time is working. Let's go into this a little bit deeper, because I'm hearing, but wait, there's more. So if I continue, they're talking about the Cambridge Dictionary, and it says, what does it mean to reciprocate someone? To share the same feelings, oh boy, as someone else, or to behave in the same way as someone else. Now, what's ironic is if we are in coherence, this allows us to feel, and everyone's in coherence, we're able to feel that wave and reciprocate that energy, right? So it's allowing us to reciprocate in a higher vibration. And this is all a play on words. This is negentropy. This is us being in a shareable wave. This is what enhances, activates, and expands our DNA, right? Our DNA can change. We're learning more and more about that. That's a whole other can of worms, but we can play with this a lot. So when we enhance this, it activates our ability to give that back to the environment, to reciprocate that, to share that with others. And there's more to this. We don't want to reciprocate or behave in the same way of someone else in that other subset of reality that we're witnessing, that we aren't wanting to co-create in. But we're aware of it, and when we get back into the heart and we expand, it allows us to reciprocate with the multidimensionality and our true essence. And that is what's reciprocated. But there's more. This has to do with time. So I'm on Edom Online. To give and return mutually. But this is where I see it. Rise and fall. Move back and forth. Reverse the motion of. Return the same way, alternating currency. To cause to move back and forth, to move backward and forward, to give or do in response, or to act in response. So from my perspective, this is giving us the ability to take action and respond with responsibility through the heart, through that currency, we're able to then move backwards and forwards in this time frame. And this is what's creating. So we've heard the term, that maybe you haven't heard this, but I have this sensation that we can change time. We're doing it. I think Bashar might talk about this as well. My friend and sister Candace and Jess had just sent me some awesome videos that I haven't had the chance to fully watch. But if you've listened to Daryl Anka, he channels Bashar, and I've listened to some of his videos. He's a lot of fun. Also Dan Winter, who, again, I could study Dan Winter for the rest of my life and still probably not fully understand what he's sharing, but I encourage you to check out fractalfield.com. Who else? I also love listening to Daniel Scranton. I've actually, part of the reason I'm doing this is because of Daniel Scranton and the Arcturians and the Ascended Masters. Anywho, I digress. I just went backwards. So by me thinking about those teachers, I just went back in time to my memory of them and what they've shared with me, which also takes me back into that field or that moment, that ripple that had an impact on me in the past when I had this experience that I now have carried forward into the now moment. And yet that ripple from the past is still affecting my now moment, because now I'm going back and looking at that experience. I'm just using this as an example from a different perspective than when I originally had the experience, or when the experience was created in that moment in time. And theoretically, what I'm doing is I'm sharing that my energy now with that energy then. And that is changing my perspective on what happened then, and has enhanced my ability to exchange with that moment in time and with that energy. And in addition to that, it is allowing me to exchange with the field that I'm existing within now, which is connected to the past, which is shaping or creating a scaffolding for my future. And this is the wave in time. This is also the sine wave. And I could go into so many different flows here. This is the long wave centripetal force that is creating my reality. Whew. I tried to be really keep it as simple as I could there. Hopefully that was understandable. And let's take this a little deeper. Reciprocal, existing on both sides, exclusive or interchangeable. So I'm going to go back to what I was describing earlier, and I could take this into so many different angles. Letters are angles or a spin that create a vibration that allow us to communicate with that frequency or energy and express it in communication through the voice and the sound frequency of energy that we are all part of, that we are embedded within, that we are communicating through from this channel, within the human channel, within this body and connective tissue, that allows us to restore our energy and resource our energy, connect to the source of our energy, and exchange in this energetic momentum and reciprocate back with this source energy to allow that frequency and flow through and forward to the next geometric configuration of you, me, we, in this wave, in this way. I could keep going. So as we do this, we reciprocate with the flow, with the energetic dynamic, with this ability to interact and exchange energy and frequency and information, allowing us to flood the senses and send this energy signal out into the field that allows us to ping off of our environment or the field in which we are embedded within, and create more resources, to create more ability to resource, to be resourceful, to fill up the cup that runneth over, to allow this chalice, this wellspring, to spill out and connect with everything in our environment, our fellow humans, our DNA, our receptacle, our flower of life to spill out, to flower, and to create reality. So if I go back to existing on both sides are interchangeable, well, I was just explaining how we are communicating, even though it's linear, we're doing it linearly and multidimensionality, exclusive to us and interchangeable with these other realities. We're able to feel and exchange with, but it doesn't mean that we have to interchange and get pulled into that, right? We're relying on our own resource. We don't need that to fulfill us. That's a whole other message I could weave this into. And I'm really being called to play with this and just really remind everybody that this is electrical. So it reminds me of alternating currents. I keep hearing moving backwards and forwards. So what this is also giving us the ability to do is to move in and out of these timelines, dimensions, in a much more fluid way. And the more we are able to recognize this and feel when these changes have occurred and to get back into the heart stream is what I'm hearing, the heart strings, the heart frequencies, the coherence, the long wave, alternating, but staying in the center, in that centripetal of the flower force. It allows us to then close out those other realities, dissolve them. Earlier, I had been saying in this flow about the chaos, right? It's discordance. So we either add to that, which takes a lot more work. It takes a lot more resistance. And one might say, well, if it takes more resistance, then how come it's so easy to get pulled into that? That seems like it's less resistance. It's not that it's less resistance, it's that we're not used to it. It's a habit, it's a pattern. It's those geometric configurations. It's a harmonic that we've been in the habit of wearing, thinking this is who we are, our clothing, our habits, right? Our personification. So now, when we send out this deeper signal of resonance, that no longer fits. Those clothes no longer fit. Those habits feel heavier. They feel like more we feel when we're in flow that that's the heavier pattern. But when we're not in that habit, it's easier to resist the flow because we're not used to it. It's foreign to us, right? It's not what we are in the habit of consistently practicing, focusing on, sending our energy towards, right? So that's the message in a nutshell. So I'm going to kind of end on that note: pattern, frequency, message, communication, energy, and send everybody a lot of love and light and such gratitude and appreciation for everyone who is sharing these videos, sharing in this experience, enjoying this work, in love and light. Namaste.